Okay, if you're a school leader, this is probably going to sound familiar. You are drowning in dashboards, right? You're juggling spreadsheets, trying to make sense of this just sea of data. But let's be honest, is it actually helping? Or is it just more noise? Well, today we're diving into what one principal calls a survival manual on a really critical distinction, the difference between being data-driven and data-informed.
I mean, just look at this quote. It's a line that just stops you in your tracks, right? The first time a dashboard made me ignore a child, I don't even notice. Wow. That's a personal admission from the principal who wrote our source material, and it just perfectly captures the human stakes here. It makes you ask, when does our obsession with data make us lose sight of the actual kids we're trying to help?
And that leads us right into what the source calls the data-driven trap. You know the term data-driven? It sounds so impressive. It's exactly what district offices love to hear. But here's the problem. It can create a culture where, good data on a screen completely hides the real, messy, complex stories happening in our classrooms.
Yeah, this really says it all, doesn't it? The problem isn't the data itself. Of course not. The trap is how we treat it, like it's the final word, the verdict. And let's be real, making a bad decision faster, just with more fancy graphs, doesn't suddenly make it a good decision.
So, okay, if being driven by the data is the trap, what's the alternative? Well, this is the core idea we're unpacking today. It's all about a crucial shift in mindset. It's about moving away from treating data as a verdict and instead using it to start a conversation. It's about going from being driven by the numbers to being informed by them.
And this comparison really lays it all out. On one side, you have data-driven. The motto is, we do what the numbers tell us. Data is king. It asks, what does the chart say we must do? But then look at the other side, data-informed. Here the motto is, we let the numbers argue with what we see. See the difference? People, our teachers, our leaders are at the top. The question totally changes. It becomes, what does the chart suggest we explore? So you have to ask yourself, who's really in charge here? The spreadsheet or the educator?
Okay, I absolutely love this metaphor. It just makes the whole concept click, Think of your data like the headlights on your car driving down a dark road. The headlights, they illuminate what's ahead. They show you the curves, maybe a pothole or two. But, and this is the key, you are still steering. You still feel the wheel in your hands. You slow down if it's foggy. The numbers illuminate. They do not dictate.
So you can kind of see this as a journey for a school. At stage 1, you might be data indifferent, just making decisions based on habit and anecdotes. Then you might evolve to stage 2, becoming data-driven, where you're relying almost exclusively on metrics. But the goal, the place you really want to be, is data-informed. That's where you're bringing it all together. The data, plus your team's professional judgment, plus, and this is so important, the student voice. All right, so that's the theory. But let's get real. What happens when we get this wrong? What are the actual, real-world consequences? Well, our source principle shares 3 hard-earned and, honestly, pretty shocking lessons that pull back the curtain on the hidden costs of being purely data-driven. First up, the human cost. And this story is just, ugh. The principal talks about projecting reading scores up on a screen. One classroom's data is in the red. He turns to the teacher and asks, "So, what's going on here?" And instantly, he said, her shoulders just dropped. In that single moment, the dashboard was in charge, and she was on trial. But here's the full story, the part the numbers didn't show. She had been working around the clock to support 3 brand new students who had just entered foster care. The context made her a hero, but that one red cell on a chart, it made her look like a failure. And this forces us to ask a really tough question. Who is your data not seeing? Because as the source points out, it's so often our most vulnerable students. The kids who move mid-year, the ones who are struggling quietly just under the radar. They are often completely invisible in our official reports. Lesson 2 is about the financial cost, but really, it's not just about the money. It's about time, energy, your sanity, right? The principal tells this story about being up late on a Sunday night. We've all been there, trying to make sense of 3 different reports from 3 different paid platforms. They all claim to identify at-risk students. The only problem? None of the numbers matched. Because each system used a slightly different definition, a different snapshot in time. I have a feeling that sounds painfully familiar to a lot of you. And this table really breaks down that full burden. I mean, you see the direct costs here, right? The per-student fees, the license costs. But look at that third column, the hidden costs. That's where it really gets you.
The training days that pull teachers out of class, the time spent on makeup testing, the hours of data entry. Every single one of these tools has a price tag, and it's not just in dollars, it's measured in people's time and attention.
Wow, data is just how they catch you now. This quote, it was whispered by a teacher to the principal after a staff meeting, and it is just chilling. It perfectly sets up the third and final lesson, the cultural cost. Because when your staff genuinely believes that the whole point of data is to catch them messing up, you've created a culture of fear, not a culture of growth.
So this is the question you have to ask. In your school, is data a hammer or is it a mirror? A hammer is for inspection, for blame. It creates that gotcha culture where everyone's looking over their shoulder. But a mirror is for reflection, for design. It fosters a culture of growth where people feel trusted. And you have to remember, the exact same spreadsheet can feel like a threat or it can feel like an invitation. It's your school's culture that decides which one it's going to be.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, and yeah, the costs are pretty heavy. So the big question is, how do we fix it? Well, that's what this next part is all about. This is your data-informed playbook. Simple, actionable steps you can use to take back control.
And the source gives us a super practical 3-step guide. Check this out. Step 1. This week, redefine just one meeting. All you have to do is add 3 minutes to ask, what did the data not tell us today? Step 2. This month, run one honest inventory. List out all your data systems and just make a note of which ones your teachers actually use. And step 3. This term, pilot one data-informed cycle. Pick a goal and tackle it using both numbers and narratives. See? These are totally manageable steps. This isn't some new, overwhelming initiative.
And hey, if you want to start, like right now, here are a few things you can do in literally 60 seconds. Add this line to your next staff agenda. This data is for design, not blame. Boom, done. At your next meeting, just add a slide that says what this data might be missing. Simple. Or ask your counselor for the profiles of 3 students who almost never show up in the formal reports. Even just renaming one data review on your calendar to data-informed planning, these tiny shifts in language can have a massive cultural impact.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one final, really powerful question from the source, because it gets right to the heart of this entire mindset shift. Your data, it's not a command telling you what you have to do. Think of it as an invitation. It's a starting point. So the question is, which conversation is your data waiting for you to start?